Though fencing is regarded by many to be a dangerous sport, it's actually far safer than initial appearance would indicate. Unfortunately, this is not the case for one entity that would come to be known simply as the fencer. In the early 2000s, a high school in the town of Farmers, Kansas introduced fencing as an extracurricular activity for its students. This came as a surprise to many, as the initial investment for fencing can be quite high. Not only does the cost of instructions need to be covered, every student must be protected with proper protective equipment. Said equipment is not cheap. So many wondered what exactly the school had obtained the funding for such an endeavor. Regardless of its beginnings, the fencing program was met with great enthusiasm. Both female and male students alike all joined the fencing program and enjoyed their first lessons. In fact, the school was forced to close the application early due to the level of demand. The first few months of instructions were ordinary. The students quickly grew comfortable with the equipment, and soon they were pressuring the instructor to sign them up for the first official match. Arrangements were made and the students were paired up against the fencing team, another town over. Excitement grew, but none of them could ever have predicted the tragedy that would strike on that day of the event. One student, whose name will be omitted for privacy reasons, had quickly shown prowess in the sport, to the point where his instructor encouraged him to take a further lesson, and considered him to pursue it professionally. He was unmatched by any of his classmates, and thus was the most exciting to watch during the friendly matches they had day by day. He was first on the roster, number one, and once formalities had been completed, he and his opponent began their match. Little did he know, his opponent's face would be the last thing he ever saw. Within 10 seconds of the match beginning, the opponent's foil pierced through the student's mask like it was paper. The match was immediately halted as the student began screaming and clutching his face. He fled the scene, still in his uniform, before any medical aid could come to him. It is uncertain what caused the protective mask to fail. Some suspect it might have been foul play, sabotage is what you would call it, while others chose to believe it was an unfortunate accident, just a simple malfunction. The student ran away, never to be seen again, knowing very well that he was bleeding from his injuries, until 3 days later, when the disappearance turned into a horror movie. When his opponent was found dead in his bedroom, he had been pierced through the heart from what looked like fencing foil all across his face, every fabric of his room cut up and open, is what his mother reported. This incident marks the origin story of the person named the Fencer. The Fencer is an average height man, built as a teen boy, standing about 5 feet 7 inches tall. He's dressed in a fencer uniform, and the protective equipment and his face is covered by the same mask he was last seen years ago. Blood has been seen pooling down from the bottom of his mask, suggesting that whatever wound he had made that day never closed, yet is still bleeding to this day. He carries one or more, possibly more fencing foils, which he will use to attack if approached. An important detail to note is that all reports indicate the fencer is blind and relies completely on sound to navigate an attack. Use this to your advantage should you ever unfortunately uncover the Fencer. Fencer's behavior seems to be erratic, and besides the murder of his opponent, there doesn't appear to be a pattern of how he selects his victims. His method of killing, however, is fully consistent, all of them meeting their end in the exact same way as the first opponent did. Pierced through the chest with a foil, the possible suffocation of the fabric and textiles around his hands. He chokes you, he cuts you up, he cuts everything up. Though there is technically a warrant out for the Fencer's arrest, no officer or official has ever come close to apprehending him. In fact, very few have even seen Fencer and lived to tell the tale. This fact has made it quite difficult to achieve photographic evidence of him. The closest thing available is this drawing created by the witness at an incident. Sightings of the Fencer seem to be limited to small radius around Moraines, another small town next to Farmers, Kansas, leading to him to be regarded as sort of a myth, a local myth. With lack of concrete information about his disappearance, his family moving away, the school closing down, its fencing team, all contributed to the anonymity of the case, and this has led some people to wonder if the incidents ever occurred at all. The case be told, who is the Fencer? What do you do if you see him? Run away. Don't look at him. Just run away.
The hand